On October 4, 1957, a metal sphere roughly the size of a beach ball, weighing 184 pounds, became the first human-made object to orbit the Earth. The Soviet Union's Sputnik circled the globe every 96 minutes, broadcasting a simple radio beep that could be heard by amateur radios across America. That beep was a psychological bombshell. If the Soviets could put a satellite in orbit, they could put a nuclear warhead anywhere on Earth. The United States, which had assumed technological superiority over the communist world, was suddenly scrambling. The space race had begun, and America was losing. The Soviet early lead in the space race was built on captured German expertise and the genius of one man the world didn't know existed, Sergei Korolev. Arrested during Stalin's purges, imprisoned in a labor camp where he lost most of his teeth to beatings, Korolev survived to become the chief designer, the secret architect of the entire Soviet space program. His identity was classified to protect him from assassination. The Sputnik booster was the same rocket that could deliver a nuclear warhead. The distinction between space exploration and military threat was never far away. 4 months after Sputnik, America's first launch attempt exploded on the launch pad in full view of the world's press. Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space on April 12, 1961, just 108 minutes that changed everything. His Vostok 1 capsule orbited Earth once before landing in a Russian field, where Gagarin parachuted out and landed near some startled farmers. He was 27 years old, a steel worker's son from a village that the Nazis had briefly occupied during World War II, now the most famous person on the planet. Less than a month later, President Kennedy stood before Congress and made a commitment of breathtaking audacity: America would land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the decade. The American space budget quadrupled almost overnight. The Apollo program was the largest peacetime technological mobilization in American history. At its peak, it employed 400,000 people at NASA and its contractors. The Saturn V rocket that carried astronauts to the moon remains the most powerful rocket ever flown, 7 million pounds of thrust, a vehicle 363 feet tall that could theoretically launch an elephant to the moon. The program overcame catastrophe. In January 1967, the Apollo 1 fire killed 3 astronauts during a ground test. The program paused, was redesigned, and continued. The Soviets suffered their own catastrophic losses, cosmonauts dying in testing, rocket explosions, but kept their failures secret while broadcasting their successes. The race appeared far closer than it was. On July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong climbed down the ladder of the lunar module Eagle and stepped onto the moon's surface. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," he said, though he later insisted he had said one small step for a man, with the indefinite article lost in static transmission. 600 million people, a fifth of Earth's population, watched on television. Buzz Aldrin followed Armstrong onto the surface. They planted an American flag, conducted scientific experiments, collected 47.5 pounds of lunar rocks, and spoke briefly with President Nixon. They were 238,855 miles from home, with less computing power in their spacecraft than in a modern pocket calculator, trusting their lives to engineering and mathematics. The space race ended with American victory, but its legacy was more complicated than a simple Cold War trophy. The Apollo program returned enormous scientific value. The moon rocks revealed details about the solar system's formation that transformed planetary science. The satellite technology developed for the space race became the foundation of GPS, weather forecasting, telecommunications, and the global internet. The environmental movement was partly inspired by the famous Earthrise photo taken during Apollo 8, the first image of Earth from beyond the moon, showing our planet as a fragile blue marble in an infinite black void. And the program proved that humanity, when sufficiently motivated, could accomplish the apparently impossible. 12 men walked on the moon between 1969 and 1972. None have returned since.